Hey everyone, welcome to the Arbor DG Sports Channel with your boy, Arbor DG. We are in the building. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Thank you for all the people that recently subscribed to my channel. I'm nothing without you guys. I wanted to talk about not the stuff, the news that's in the news right now, as far as the latest draft picks that we drafted. You know, people making videos about that. I wanted to touch on something different, you know what I mean? Mainly then and now, you know, the past Redskin team in comparison with the new Washington Commanders team. It's been a huge gap in between since we last had a winning season and went to the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl since 91. And now you get to all the way, you fast forward all the way until now. And what I noticed was the similarities between the 49ers of maybe 3-4 years ago and the 91 Redskin teams or the 80s teams when we were going to the playoffs consistently having winning teams. And I say that because I watched how Adam Peters, sorry, I got tongue twisted, strategically orchestrating this team as far as roster wise. I think he did his homework to those teams that we had in the 80s, those teams that we had early in the 90s, and those teams that he had in San Francisco, along the other stops that he went, that he had stops at. And I think he's putting that and making that all a big gumbo. You understand what I'm saying? I think he's making that all a big gumbo because I think back and I look at the teams that we had back in the 80s and the 90s. Everything was hard-nosed, gritty, blue-collar guys. And I see the comparison that he's bringing in a bunch of hard-nosed, gritty, blue-collar guys that doesn't necessarily have a gigantic name as far as stardom-wise. Although you got a guy like Deebo Samuels, he's still not a huge name. But he's a name, but he's not a huge name. He's not a superstar athlete, you know, like a Jefferson or Lamar Chase or somebody like that'll ring a bell as far as receiver wise. But he's a name. And I look at our wide receiver lineup and I can make some similarities to the 49ers and the old school 90s and 80s Redskins. I can start off with a guy like Terry McLaurins in comparison with Art Monk. Hard-nosed possession guy that'll still beat you over the top but do most of his damage across the middle. You know, he's a tough guy, takes big hits. When you got to go to a player clutch moments, you go to Art Monk, you go to Terry McLaurin. Then I look at a guy like Deebo Samuels. Although they're not the same, but he's a feisty guy, just like a Gary Clark. You know, a guy that will put it on his back. He's not afraid of the big moments. You know, he wants to shine. He want to take every possession and take it to the house. You know, that's how Gary Clark was. Give me the ball. And that's what Deebo Samuels is. Give me the ball. You know. And then you got a guy like the lane guy, right? Got a lot of speed, like a Ricky Sanders, you know, a Brandon Ayuk. You know, I know a lot of people probably like, man, what is this guy talking about? If you look close enough, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now let's go to the offensive line. The offensive line is not as dominant as the 90s Redskins were or the 80s Redskins were, but they building it to be a strong, cohesive unit that can move people off the ball. And maybe, who knows, maybe they'll become something special this year. Only time will tell. And then you look at the running back. Although we had John Riggins, Ernest Biner, forgot the other guy back in the day, but you got the hard, gritty running backs. You know, Brian Robinson. You got a guy like Rodriguez, and then you just drafted a young boy, Crockett Merritt, Ja'Cory Crockett Merritt. I like him. He's a shifty guy. He remind me of Ernest Bonner, old shifty guy. And then you got a Brian Robinson in comparison him with a Gerald Riggs, short yardage guy that's got a lot of thump behind the shoulder pads, So, and you look at a guy like a Austin Eckler, somewhat like Brian Mitchell. And then you got the old Ertz. You remind me of Brent Jones back in the 49ers days. Reliable guy, great hands, clutch guy, know how to sit in the zones. You know what I'm saying? Run excellent routes. Just like Brent Jones did for the 49ers. And then you got your quarterback, right? You got your quarterback. You got a guy like Jaydendaniels, who's, in my eyes, is a great player. An elite quarterback. We can go see the Redskins. We had quarterbacks by committee. We had Joe Theismann. We had Doug Williams. Then we had Mark Rippon. I can't compare him to none of our quarterbacks, talking about Jaydendaniels. But I can compare him, not play style, but Joe Montana with the calmness. They used to call him Joe Cool. And that's what I feel like you can compare those two guys. They're very calm guys. They don't get, too high, too low. They right in the medium area. They clutch. All the comparisons except the athleticism. And that's where the separation comes in at. But he has all the tools that Joe Montana has. Nice and smooth. He's got a nice arm. It's not a big, strong arm, but it's an arm that's highly accurate and highly effective. And he's got excellent IQ like Joe Montana has, and he can pick apart a defense. He's got great awareness, pocket awareness. So that's our X factor. That's the great neutralizer. You know what I'm saying? He got everything Joe Montana had, but the rings right now and the athleticism. Joe Montana didn't have the athleticism Jaydendaniels had, but Jaydendaniels has all the intangibles that will make you an elite Hall of Fame quarterback. Now I want to shift sides on the defense. We don't have an elite pass rusher like the Redskins did with Charles Mann and Dexter Manley, but we got hard-nosed, gritty guys up there. The linebacker, we never had super-duper great linebackers, but we always seem to we never produced our homegrown linebackers. We always got them from another team. You got a guy like Wilbur Marshall, Jeremiah Trotter. And some people might say, why you? But he played good with the Eagles. And he didn't play good with us, but he played good with the Eagles. And you got a guy like London Fletcher, So we always got linebackers from other teams. But London Fletcher and I will say London Fletcher and Wilbur Marshall was great linebackers. We don't have the hard-hitting safety like we did back in the day, like Alvin Walton or Sean Taylor. But I like Quan Martin. He's working his way up. He's a gritty guy, blue-collar guy. He gets the job done. When he stick his head in there, pause. When he stick his head in there, he gets the job done. I think, let's talk about the cornerbacks. Trey Amos. No, he's not Darryl Green. No, he's not Champ Bailey. No, he's not Fred Smoot. I think he's going to be Trey Amos. There's something special about this guy. From what I see, he got all the intangibles to be special. That's the reason why I call him special. And I like his highlights. He got a chance to, carve out his own name. He got Lattimore, that's our Martin Mayhew on the other side. I just think that we on to something. We got similarities, They're all the way not the same, but they're building a team like how we had and structured back in the day. You look at all of the teams with great foundations like the Pittsburgh Steelers. What they hold their hat on? A strong running game and a dominant defense. That's what they still practice to this day. They didn't change their method or their ways or their style of or brand of football. They never changed it. They never wavered from that. They stayed the same. And that's what make them the team that they are today. The Philadelphia Eagles always had a scrambling quarterback with a good defense. The same method that they use to this day. They haven't changed or wavered from. That's why those teams are always in the thick of things. The Baltimore Ravens, same thing. A hard-nosed defense. Their foundation of that team is the defense. And they always have a good defense with a strong running game. And just so happen they have an X factor at quarterback also. So my point is, you don't change with the foundation and the root of and the success of your team, your franchise. If that's what works, you stick to that process. And I think that's what we're getting back to this day. And I think Adam Peters was smart by trying to, he's not trying to go all the way back to that style, because it's impossible to go back to that style of brand of football, because the NFL is too wide open for that these days. You can't go to that ground and pound style of football anymore. You have to be able to pass, and you have to be able to have a quarterback. And I think we solved that issue by bringing in a Deebo Samuels and the new rookie guy and Michael Gallup. And you got a guy like Terry McLaurin, who's, speaking of Terry McLaurin, should get an extension. He's a 7-year vet. They had talks about getting him an extended this off season right here. You know, hopefully he'll get it done before the season, because we don't want that to be a story. So hopefully Terry McLaurin, with all he produced, he deserves at least another 2 to 3 year extension. You know what I'm saying? He should be one of the highest paid players, wide receivers in the league, because he is a top 5, top 10 wide receiver, hands down. Everybody around the league knows it. You know, it's not his fault he never had a quarterback. You see what type of numbers he put up with a quarterback. Imagine if he'd have had a quarterback all these years, what his numbers would look like. He'll be talking about Canton right now, you know. So you got to sign a guy like Terry McLaurin, re-sign a guy like, you got to extend him. You have to, you know. So if you want to keep having success, because we all know receivers, they're kind of easy to find, but they're not easy to find. You understand what I'm saying? So when you got a great one like this, who's been loyal to this fan base, who could have went to another team, to a contender before Jaydendaniels got here, he didn't do that. He opted to remain loyal with the organization that he got drafted by. And that's a rare commodity in today's NFL, when you got these primetime divas ready to go get a big bag from another organization and don't hold no loyalty. So with that alone, Terry McLaurin being one of the top wide receivers in the league for the last 5 or 6 years, since he got in the league, if you ask me, and has been loyal to a losing franchise, he ought to get rewarded just for that alone. So yeah, Terry McLaurin, yeah, please, the Adam Peters, Josh Harris, do the right thing by that man, extend him, and make him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the league, at least close to it. You know, and then your next line of business should be now getting your budget and your money ready, you know what I'm saying, to sign Jaydendaniels, because we all know he's not going to have a sophomore slump. We know this. And people, a lot of teams around the league banking, or not teams, but a lot of analysts around the league banking that he have a sophomore slump just to prove themselves right. But us fan base, we know, we saw what we saw. We saw what we needed to see. And Jaydendaniels is going to be special for a long time. All we got to do is protect him. And that's what they did by signing a guy like Laramie Tunsil. You know what I'm saying? And drafting a guy like Josh Connolly. So we on the uprise. We in good hands with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Josh Harris and Magic Johnson and the rest of those crew. Anyway, I just wanted to come and make a video today and touch on the then and now. If you guys like this video, hit the like, share, subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It's your boy Arbor DJ. Peace.